so many Christians I know who look at what Jesus actually preached, and yes, there's some language about the outer darkness and the gnashing of teeth and all this kind of stuff, but ultimately, the project of Jesus was to die and to save all. And it's like, well, if that was the project, then aren't we all saved?
Right.
Welcome to Tiny Pulpit Talks. We are so glad that you are with us again. I'm Reverend TJ FitzGerald, the Minister of Community Care and Engagement, and with me is
Reverend Beth Dana, Minister of Faith Development.
Faith Development indeed. Today we are going to be talking about something very important, so it's good we have our Minister of Faith Development and your Minister of Care with you to talk about the important influence of universalism in Unitarian Universalism. What is the universalism part of Unitarian Universalism, Beth?
Well, as the name suggests, salvation is universal.
Salvation is universal. Preach it from the hilltop.
That God would never punish human beings infinitely for being human beings.
Right. Now, Universalism started with a Methodist minister in England who was kicked out of England, more or less, for his Universalist ideas that we're all saved. So John Murray came over and landed in Good Luck.
It's a great story.
In Good Luck, New Jersey.
Yeah.
I mean, what other luck has New Jersey ever had? No, I'm sorry.
Poor Jersey.
Sorry, Jersey.
We love you.
We love you, New Jersey. And so there was a farmer who had built a little chapel, and Thomas Murray came aboard and said,
John Murray.
I'm sorry.
And Thomas Potter.
Thomas Potter had the farm, and John Murray was the minister. John Murray says to Tom Potter, I'll do anything, just, give me some job. And what does Tom say?
He tells him to go preach in his chapel.
Go preach in his chapel, the one thing he never wanted to do again. And so he decides, okay, fine, I'll go in and I'll preach as long as you'll feed me or something. And what happened?
Well, I mean, essentially Universalism caught fire from there.
Yeah.
He preached the message of universal salvation, and it caught on.
Yeah.
In America.
Yeah. And so Universalism spread, south from New Jersey, north, all over, and was its own denomination, its own successful, actually more financially successful than Unitarianism, because when the two joined, it was the Universalists' funds and the Unitarians' sort of cachet that kind of came together to make Unitarian Universalism. But we are focusing on Universalism. So we've talked about it, how it as a denomination kind of started, and you've said a little bit about what it means for God to save all people, but you also had a caveat that said eventually. Should we talk a little bit about that for people?
Yeah, there's some different approaches to universalism.
Right.
There's what are called the Restorationists, who say, there'll be kind of a period of cleansing and purifying and making right for your sins during your life after you're done, and then you'll be saved.
Right, but we like to think that cleansing and purifying is more like taking a bath than anything having to do with fire.
Sure.
Yeah. So.
And then the Ultra-Universalists are nope, there's no, period of having to make right, you just are saved.
So, and that is what I am. I mean, I'll just say I'm an ultra-universalist. I don't think there's a limbo. I don't think there's anything, because what you said is so beautifully right at the outset. For God so loved this creation, and God is perfect, how could God damn its loving creation to harm or to pain or to suffering? It doesn't make any cosmic sense.
Right.
And it's not even sense. It also just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we talk about how God is loving. How could a loving God do that?
Or God is love.
Yeah, love. Yeah. And so if God is love or loving, I mean, a lot of the early Universalists were talking about God as a loving parent.
Right.
And saying, how could a loving parent condemn their child to hell? folks like Hosea Ballou told stories about muddy children. And, if your child is dirty, do you wash them or do you just condemn them? Or do you, what?
Maybe both. It depends on how much I have going on that day.
It's like, are they a lost cause or are they,
Yeah. How clean were the floors when they walked in? I mean, that's the question.
Yeah.
So Hosea Ballou wrote the famous treatise on atonement that we all had to read to become ministers and that we studied. And there's a lot of beautiful things in that to read. But he was a little bit more of the eventual Universalist.
Yeah.
That at the end, we are all reconciled together with God and with love.
Yeah.
So now I have this feeling that I think universalism is due for a rebirth. I think that it has got a message that speaks to so many Christians I know who look at what Jesus actually preached. And yes, there's some language about the outer darkness and the gnashing of teeth and all this kind of stuff, but ultimately the project of Jesus was to die and to save all. And it's like, well, if that was the project, then aren't we all saved?
Right?
Yeah. So I think it's got legs, and I wish there was more. And I think what happens is, and you could say something about this also, that I think there are Christian ministers who are closet universalists.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
are afraid of losing their jobs.
Tons. And there are some who have come out of the closet and have lost their jobs in their churches.
Yeah. Luckily, they're best-selling authors.
Well, I was
so
going to say, and
it.
have written best-selling books like Rob Bell. But yeah, I mean, some have not been as had great success afterwards. So.
Yeah, it's really Universalist is an epithet. It's a bad name that people call people in certain circles.
Right.
And to me, it just feels like it's almost that someone's told the dark secret of giving away the power of the threat of hell that so many faiths depend on in order to keep people coming.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. To keep people coming or to keep them in line.
Yeah. It's really sad.
Yeah.
But all that being said, I think for a few years, we've been hearing, even in our denomination, more of a resurgence, and there's even a sermon competition and things like that. Yes, there are sermon competitions in the ministerial world. They're a lot like cheerleading competitions. No, they're not. They're the opposite. And for Universalist sermons.
Yeah. I think there is a little bit of a resurgence of it, and I think we see that in part in the centering of love. The theology of love.
With the changes in the principles and the new guiding.
Exactly. With love is at the center. And that is a very universalist message.
It is. And that's what I want to kind of close with, is just saying that today, the way universalism plays out in Unitarian Universalist circles, and certainly at our church, is what we always say: we believe in original goodness. That wipes away or doesn't even consider the idea of original sin, which is what is used as the hook to get people to believe that they could be bound for some kind of damnation. And so we say we believe in original goodness, and that is universalism speaking aloud out of our values. Right? Yeah.
Exactly. That we are originally good, and that there is a love that holds us all.
Right. There is a love. Yeah. So that is a little bit about universalism, partly in America. I mean, it's something to really investigate. Look at some of the people who claim to be universalists. There's a lot to learn in this area, and I think we're going to be talking more about it in
this
August.
Summer, yes.
When we always do a little bit of a primer on Unitarianism and on Universalism. So we'll look forward to doing that together.
Yeah.
And until then, thanks for tuning in to Tiny Pulpit Talks. If you have questions, or if you think we got something wrong, or if you're sure we got something right, we want to hear from you.
Yes.
Just leave some comments or some questions, or reach out. Subscribe to the podcast, do whatever you want to do, and however you want to connect, we're here for you. We want to listen. So we will see you on Sunday. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.